Check something here. All right. Welcome, everyone, to episode 3 of Midday Mindfulness. I'm Maria Barcelos, Executive Director at the Gatehouse, and I have my lovely colleague Brad at stepintothecreative.com. And we are super excited to bring you the third episode of Midday Mindfulness. We're going to be talking about incorporating mindfulness into your everyday practices and also exploring limiting beliefs and how they can help you or hold you back in different instances. Last week, we were talking about holding tension in the body, and we actually did the closed fist exercise and releasing the tension just to notice when we're holding in those lower level emotions of guilt, shame, fear, and how to reach out and move beyond those feelings, how to breathe through those feelings so that we can be our best selves. Today, like I said, Brad's going to be talking to us about limiting beliefs, and he's going to mention a little bit about the longings of the spirit or the longings of the soul. So I'm going to turn it to Brad, and we're going to have a great session. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Maria. It's a pleasure to be here again. We've talked about these longings of the soul a little bit in our previous session, but I'd like to give just a little bit more context into where they came from and maybe how they can support you in living a life that feels good to you. They come from a Buddhist philosopher, business person, Yayashiku Jinku Kimura, and they're inspired by him. I have incorporated some of my other spiritual teachings and understanding into them. So they're not exactly as he presents them. But Kimura says the fundamental longing of our soul is to evolve. When we think of the word evolve, it kind of brings up feelings of discomfort, maybe moving beyond where we are now to a different space. And he says that yearning to evolve has 5 aspects. The first of those 5 aspects is to be free. Of course, for our Buddhist friends and Hindu friends, we'll talk about freedom from attachment, freedom of the spirit, all of those kinds of things. What I tend to term that freedom of is freedom of the creative energy that's within us. That's the energy that rises up through our individual intelligence, our individual makeup, and presents a gift to the world, a vision to the world that nobody else has. As I've said before, everybody has a gift off of the world that nobody else can, to make the world a better place, to just make other people's lives happier. So that's the first one, to be free. The second one is to love, to extend love. Now, we talked about this a couple times in the last session, and the love I'm referring to here is not interpersonal love of, say, a partner, a parent, a child, a friend, but impersonal love. It's a love that's willing and ready to flow through any willing vehicle and bring it into maturity. We talked about the acorn and how that transforms into an oak tree, about how flowers bud. That love that's here, or the Tao, the Taoists call it the Tao, will flow through anything. So that's the second longing. And when it flows through you and into the world is a better place. You feel better. Your creative energy is flowing. But as we said in a previous session, love, or Richard Rohr says in his book, The Divine Dance, love flows both ways or not at all. So the third longing is to receive love. Again, that impersonal love. And it's not to say that when the impersonal love flows through interpersonal relationships, those relationships flourish. And they're receptive and exchanging a flow of love. And we could talk more about that as we move along. So to extend love and to receive love. Again, the impersonal love. Our friend and founder of the gatehouse, Arthur Lockhart, whenever he came to the gatehouse or went to teach a class, he would just touch a tree. He would remember his father, he'd remember all the loving people in his life, his mother, his family, and he would just, because that energy is flowing through that tree, and you connect with it. You can connect with it in nature. Some people like beaches and the ocean flowing in, mountain settings, forest settings. Whatever it is, nature is a good way to be receptive. And that was the inspiration behind the healing garden, actually, where people could go to the healing garden and just be and feel that flow of love going back and forth. So, number one, to be free, to love, to receive love. And the fourth one is what we talked about as well, is to contribute. We have a longing to contribute to the betterment of the world, our families, our workplaces, our environment. When that longing is shut down, we feel it sends us into lower level emotions. We've been asked at the gatehouse to go into places where people are struggling with trauma that often comes from childhood and are struggling to manage their life, move into the world where they can contribute, i.e., through a job or having trouble in interpersonal relationships, all of those kinds of things. And if we can, I believe in our culture, go into those areas and find ways, inspire people that aren't feeling like they're contributing, to provide ways to do that. And of course, we talked about even a smile. Maria talked beautifully about how she received messages that make her feel good just because somebody is thinking. So to contribute doesn't have to be to solve world hunger or those things, although it could involve some ideas around that. It's a day-to-day practice of doing something that makes your environment a better place. Remember, if you're feeling more peaceful and contributing, the world is automatically a better place because of you. So that's number 4. Number 5 is to be acknowledged. And the way Kamira says, to be invited into another person's soul, to be acknowledged that we all come from the same place. We all look on this physical plane a little bit differently, but we all have this light, this creative energy within inside of us. Mm-hmm. And when you acknowledge that, because what you focus on expands, when you acknowledge on the light in other people, it grows in that person. We often say at the gatehouse, we look for the little flame and all that darkness and all that dark story. We look for the flame and we fan that heck out of it. That's what we're paying attention to. What you focus on expands. In assist suicide intervention, it's what they call the light side when it starts to speak through that story. To be acknowledged for your light, to be acknowledged for who you are. The Hindus have a beautiful, succinct term for that, which is namaste. The light in me bows to the light in you. What do we focus on mostly in this world? We focus on everybody's faults. I mean, you just have to turn on social media and everybody's hammering each other with words that they say, that taking things out of context. This is very detrimental to that part of ourselves that needs to be acknowledged into another person. Of course, on a physical way, we want to be acknowledged in our work through a paycheck. We want to be acknowledged in our relationship through feeling like you're contributing and being a healthy part of that. Even with that, when you think about a paycheck from your work, study after study after study after study shows that employees feel better when somebody says something really positive about what they do. Of course, we would all like a raise, all those kinds of things, but that's rarely the number one thing. Employees, people want to be acknowledged. And in my experience, in all the work that all the companies I've worked for, and I've worked for some really great places. Nobody does it better than the gatehouse. It is a constant stream of acknowledgement that keeps flowing. Okay, so those are the five longings: to be doing, to love, to receive love, to contribute, and to be acknowledged. And these longings we've been filtering through. So now what we want to get into today is what is stopping those longings if they're true. And I'm just putting that out there for you to test them, play with them, toy with them, explore them. If that's true, what stops them from surfacing in the world? Typically, it's limiting beliefs. It is, we get limiting beliefs that anchor us in lower level emotions. For instance, well, maybe we'll move on to that. I want to get ahead of myself. Okay, so where do beliefs come from? They come from the assumptions that we hold. Our beliefs come from the assumptions that we hold. So we have assumptions, lead to beliefs, lead to the emotions that we have, or you can say energy and motion. Yeah, that's what fuels us. It's our emotions, and which leads to actions. Actions, our behaviors, are the bridge between our inner world of assumption, thoughts, and emotions to the external world, which is the reality that we see. For instance, if we have the assumption that the world is a hostile place or that the universe is hostile, then our thoughts will become very defensive in face of worldly events. We will tend to recoil instead of express, referring back to the five longings, in the face of opportunities to deliver our gifts. So and then our emotions will stay stuck, lower level, they'll anchor us in lower level emotions. Our actions will kind of go two ways. They either recoil into staying away of dangerous situations, like speaking in front of people, like writing that book you always wanted to write. I use those examples because they're part of my story. But things that are not physically dangerous, we get held back, and our view of reality will reaffirm that whole train of thought, the assumptions, the thoughts, the feeling. Because when somebody just looks at you and goes, no, turns away from you when you're talking, whatever is happening in their experience, we take that in lower level emotions as a slight on us. So what we need to do is challenge our assumptions. And how we do that is we need to look at them. The assumptions are many times unconscious, coming from childhood experiences, school experiences, adolescence experiences. They develop in an unconscious way. Well, how do we see them? Every time you have an emotion that's we use the word trigger. A lot of people use the word trigger. We transform that word into insight. When you have an insight of an emotion that you don't like, and it's pinning to something that's happening in the external world, that's a time to be mindful and breathe and pause and say, okay, what is it about this experience? How can I look at this? And there are all kinds of great ways great people out there that are working with the emotional body right now. There's so many. Dr. Bradley Nelson, he does this emotional code stuff. Gary Craig will talk about a metaphor that he uses a little bit that can help us with those, but we need to do that work, or these emotions, historical emotions, will keep finding themselves in present day situations and block those spirits. So I just like to turn it over to Maria for a moment and ask, what are some of the assumptions that you think underlie people that have been sexually abused as children?
For sure, Brad. Thank you for sharing all that. It's definitely something that's always on our mind. We used to program, especially in phase one, it's more about unpacking the story in specific topics. So we look at beliefs like I'm not good enough, which are rooted in shame. I'm damaged. If they find out, whoever they are, friends, family, other coworkers, they will leave me. They will not no longer want to be my friend. Again, at least that other belief of I'm damaged, somehow I'm not good enough. And then, like you said, the world is a dangerous place because they are abused as children. And then that's how they perceive the world moving forward. If they don't, especially if they don't get any support, psychological support early on in their life. And a lot of the adults that do come to the gatehouse have had some sort of counseling, but not as children, as adults. So by that time, their beliefs are ingrained in danger and fear. A lot of danger and fear are playing there. So it's important to like look at those, like you mentioned. We do a lot of journaling is one of the ways to explore your beliefs, but also not to, if you are feeling overwhelmed, to also reach out for support. There are peer networks like the Gatehouse. There are counseling services in our community. We're very fortunate in Toronto to have a wide array of services in the city. If you're outside of Toronto, the Gatehouse right now is offering online peer support groups. So there is a resource without a geographical boundary out there. So definitely go to thegatehouse.org and check out our intake process. But looking at those limiting beliefs and how they stop you from living your best life. We know that having insecurity, for example, around being on camera or doing a podcast or writing a book comes from these fear-based beliefs that we form in childhood. We know this. Bullying is another one. If you have a bullying experience, it further proves in your mind that you're not good enough. See, everyone else is making fun of you now. So if you look at those experiences, and sometimes people underwrite bullying as, oh yeah, it happened, it's fine, I'm over it, right? But then they don't look at, if they're not mindfully looking at their life and exploring what's going on for them, they're still not doing the best that they could do for themselves, not to perform to perfection or anything. So we're going to be talking about perfection later on, but they're not performing at their creative level, like we keep talking about in these episodes. Their creative energy is still being stalled by these limiting beliefs. So it's important to look at what those are. Sometimes the person may not even know what belief is operating, but they know the feeling, or they know the sensation, or they know that they stop themselves from a particular thing, like writing the book, or going to that party, or socializing with someone, or reaching out to someone who may be a potential romantic partner in future. So it's good to look at what's stopping you from doing these things and reaching out for support as well, so that you're not alone in the journey. You're never alone. Brad, I know that you talked a little bit about the model. So if you can repeat it again, please, the assumptions model of how assumptions lead to reality.
Yeah. Okay. So going for my step metaphor to promote my website a little bit, the step is that model, spirit, thinking or paradigms of the world, actions, and reality. And the spirit part of it is what is our spirit, what is leading to the thoughts that we have. And it's really based on assumptions. Do we live in a hostile universe or a friendly universe? Is, if you look at the big existential questions, is this life, this body, is the beginning and end of life? Like all of those kinds of things lead into the assumption that the world is dangerous. Life is not meant to feel good. Life is supposed to be hard. These are very ingrained assumptions that direct our life. All rich people are greedy. I mean, the list can go on, and these assumptions can lead to thoughts that we'll see in the external world. Yeah, some rich people certainly look greedy. They don't look like they're helping, but there are many people with money that are doing amazing things too. It's just where our thoughts tend to go. And as Maria said, is how do we know that? Is that we know it by the feeling that comes up. If if your life is supposed to feel good and joy and happiness, if the assumption is, and this is what I like to put out to people, especially young people in the colleges and universities that are struggling to find their way, If the assumption is that life is supposed to feel good most of the time, if joy and happiness are natural parts of the human experience, if these are your assumptions, if you are pre-programmed or already set up to deliver your gifts and realize your dreams, if these are the assumptions that you hold on a subconscious basis, when conflict happens in the world, or disturbances or interferences, which surely they will and are, they don't stop you, because the assumption is, well, this is just something I need to work on, rather than if there's an underlying trauma there that hasn't been dealt with, it grasps onto that and it forms an identity of what Maria's saying, I'm not worthy, whatever word you want to use. Success isn't for me, that's for other people. Happiness isn't for me, that's for other people. I would like you to do is just to challenge some of those thoughts, just to look at them, breathe through them, and say, can my life feel better? Can I feel joy and happiness more often? I'm a big fan of the Kaizen philosophy, and it's a Japanese word that means slow, incremental progress over time. I like to think of it as compound interest. You know, you put a little bit of money in the bank every week, every month, over the course with a rule of 72. Over the course of years, it will continue to compound and over time lead to big, big gains. What is really important is the habit that we form. And that's why we're offering you some movements of body gym just to stay centered. So remember, the universe is self-correcting and self-organizing. You remember that quote from Marianne Williamson. If we can stay centered more often, the universe, that Tao, that things that transforms the acorn into the oak, will work through us. If we are on constant defense all the time from everything in the environment, then that has very little chance to grow and to flourish. So we just want to pause, and remember, pause is paying attention unveils sacred experiences. Did you want to?
Thanks for sharing, Brad. I really like what we talked about because we do a pre-brief for these sessions, how these long-held beliefs anchor us down. And I really like that metaphor. Can you share a little bit more about how that presents?
A very useful metaphor for me comes from Gary Craig. He's the founder of EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. And he talks about the tabletop in terms of beliefs. So the tabletop, we have this belief. For me, it was, I could never be a successful writer. I could never be good at that trade. That was my belief, because I had that keep coming up over the years that I wanted to write creatively. And it kept getting shot down by the legs that were holding up that belief, which were, I didn't do well in school. I wasn't a great communicator. I was kind of shy in a lot of ways. And I didn't feel like, obviously, writers need to be given school. And all of these beliefs that set up, I failed grade 7. Got pushed through to grade 8, and then I trouble in grade 8 because of a teacher there. All of these things created unconscious assumptions that life could never be for me, until I was in my 30th year and I thought, I can't do this anymore. That creative energy was coming up. So I took a course in writing, and it was really hard. Because I decided that I could do that, I still had to go back and learn grammar and learn all the things that I was tuning out to in school. And I knew I needed discipline, so I started a little Shaolin Kung Fu club called Beyond Kung Fu in Brampton, and surrounded myself with people that, when I finally brought up my dream of writing a novel and writing, that they said, of course you can do that. Just keep doing, keep going, keep coming back. You can achieve your black sash. You can do this. And over the course of 10 years, I had achieved a black sash. I had my first novel in print. I had a personal development book in print, a children's chapter book, which was really joyful to go around schools in Ontario and inspire kids to, with all the things we're talking about now. But I challenged the assumption and I went to work to knock down some of those beliefs. Now, here's the thing about that, and I encourage you to look up Gary Craig if you don't know his work. Sometimes we have like 10 legs holding up this belief, whatever that is. And then there's roots to the belief, all kinds of things that we need to pay attention to when those emotions come up, these insights come up through your emotions, is to look at them and say, what are they telling me? Does this align with a friendly universe paradigm or a hostile universe paradigm? And what do I want to choose? See, Einstein said, we have a basic choice between the two, hostile or friendly. Can I choose a friendly universe? And if you make that choice, it doesn't mean you're going to go out and it's going to be all friendly. There's work to be done, Kaizen work. I needed to go back to school and do all of that kind of work. But the great thing about what Gary Craig is saying, if you have 10 legs, sometimes you can knock down one or two and hold belief classes. And the only way you can do that is to work on, sometimes you need to work on all 9 or 10. Sometimes you can collapse a couple. The key thing is you need to do the work. And there is no organization better, in my experience, than doing unfolding the work of a childhood trauma, a childhood sexual abuse trauma, than the gatehouse. Because we embrace all of these topics. We do nothing well. We trust in when that energy starts coming out, it will make its way. And what really the miraculous thing that happens often is people that come through the gatehouse, they find their creative spirit and they're making music CDs or writing books. They're doing all kinds of things that they were unable to do before because they were able to release the brakes through a simple conversation.
Exactly, Brad. Thank you for sharing that. And it leads us to the point of, in order to work through these beliefs or recognize what they are, we have to look at them. We have to explore what is going on in our lives and look at how do these beliefs help us or how do they hinder us? Because sometimes a belief, for some folks, they might have the belief, I'm not worthy, and then they'll use it to be like, oh yeah, I'll show you to myself and do cool things. And then there are other folks who have the I'm not worthy belief, and they will feed into that through their thoughts, their feelings, their behaviors, and they will always achieve results in their life that prove that they're not worthy because they are seeking that. And it focuses on that statement, what you focus on expands. So if you're focusing on the fear-based world, you are going to create and manifest more fear in your life. And we do have choices. We do have choices. Sometimes it feels like we're out of control or don't have control over things, but we do have a choice in how we behave, react, and do in a moment, and how we contribute into the world as well. So, when you talked about having a world that everything's going to be great or happy, we have a choice to start our day with gratitude. We have our choice to start our day with an affirmation. We have our choice to start our day with a hug with a family member or a friend or your roommate or your dog or cat. Or your teddy bear if you don't have animals. Anything, right? You can squeeze a blanket and be like, I'm so grateful for my blanket. It keeps me warm. We have choices to make, and sometimes the little things, if we expand them and make them bigger, like hugging a blanket sounds weird, right? But it is what gives you comfort at night. It keeps you warm. It is a choice that you can make that's very quote unquote simple to do, but people need to put these practices into a daily practice. So asking, what am I going to do today that will help me explore my beliefs? And what am I going to do today that will knock down one of those legs, as you mentioned, off of the table that's holding this belief up? So if the belief is fear in writing, one of the things that you could do is start a daily gratitude practice and write, I'm grateful for one sentence, one word. It doesn't have to be a whole chapter, but before you know it, things like that practices like that are small. The 2% every day that you're talking about, Brad, is used in all kinds of different things out there, including like weight loss programs, motivational speaking programs, and they've adapted that. If you put in like little percentages of work every day towards taking down that belief, you will achieve success. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. You will achieve success. And what success is to you is to you. It's not defined by other people. You have to define success for you. I learned that at a Humber College University graduation convention. There was thousands of students graduating. And I was sitting there, and the president of the school, Chris Whitaker, said that. He's like, you have to define what success means to you. I don't know how many students heard that. I definitely heard that and took it in and went, you know what? I think I've been defining success a whole other way. He's absolutely right. I'm going to redefine what success looks like for me, because I'm not going to be comparing myself to other people. It's not helpful, right? I have to be this or that based on other people's assumptions of who I'm supposed to be. No, no more. I'm defining success for me. So that was a really cool experience for me to be there. So thanks, Chris Whitaker, if you're watching. You helped inspire me in a myriad of ways. I know that you were talking about Gary Craig's work around beliefs earlier, Brad. Did you have a little bit more to share about what he says, or another person that you have on your roster to talk about today?
Well, I mean, just to say, like, I mean, the EMT process, we could do that in maybe a future session. It's just simply tapping through some of the meridians in the body, acupuncture places, while saying some reshuffling your belief system. Even though I feel like I can't write books, I deeply completely accept myself. I love myself. And you're tapped through and some of those emotions relief. For me, it was practicing Shaolin Kung Fu, standing up, doing the movements, shouting and screaming. I'm not shouting and screaming all of the things that I hadn't unpackaged before my childhood cancer experience, those kinds of things. I was just releasing, and energy was starting to move through the body. This is really, really important. So if you find yourself doing stuff like EFT, Dr. Nelson, he does the emotional code. He does similar things like that. It's a lot of it built on NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and other modalities that are really releasing the brakes. And there's a lot of information. I encourage you to look at how some of those modalities might serve you. So what we're doing here is we're just doing some Bodwidgen. We're doing that Kaizen philosophy. You can get out of bed and do this every morning. And express gratitude. Your feet at the floor and you say thank you. You're setting a positive, energetic intent for the day. Are things going to knock you off balance? 100% happens every day. It's how you become grounded. This is what we're practicing. This is the importance of practicing so that in the moment you're able to create and just consider what it is. Now, by no means am I suggesting that if somebody comes aggressively at you, that you do not protect yourself and all of those types of things. How you protect yourself is very important. And you can learn things like that in martial arts, creating distance, all kinds of safety things. So I'm talking more about the things that evoke your emotions in the other world that you're involved. These are things we need to pause and step back and look at, because those are the things that are stopping your gifts from coming out in other circumstances. So maybe we'll do the next two moves now, unless Maria, you wanted to say anything, add anything onto that.
No, that's great. I love that, like stepping into your creative energy and getting the energy to flow through your body as well, especially when there's a feeling in there. So yeah, and then I just want to mention, or really quick, as you talked about experiencing things in the body earlier, we have our Transforming Trauma Conference. The registration is now open, and we do have someone who's going to be doing a somatic experiencing session. So I'm really looking forward to that. Avdeep Bahra is going to be there. So if anyone's interested, the conference details are on our website, thegatehouse.org. But yes, Brad, please do show us the meditation.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you the last two movements. If you notice in the video on my website, we're skipping one motion where we go down and bend down below the knees. I do that because when I do that live, there are some people that feel dizzy doing that. So I don't want to do that when I'm doing it in a distant way. Again, if anything is causing any kind of pain at all, then you just stop because this is not what it is. A little bit of stretching is okay. But if there's pain, you want to stop. Remember, Kaizen, little bits at a time. So I'm going to take you through the last two movements, which are very easy. And then I'm going to invite you up to do all the movements. You follow along and the final two movements, and then we'll go back to where we were. Okay, remember the bow, connecting the circuit in the body, and in reverence to the lineage of this energy coming 1,000 years to us today. And also as an anchor to say, my body is going to experience something good now. So these are the last two movements. You simply bring your feet together. They are flat on the floor. You bring your hands behind your back. And with your feet flat on the floor, you breathe in and then you turn until maybe your inner step starts to rise and then you stop. So it looks like this. Breathing in. Breathing into the center and exit. And while we're in this position, we just rise up on the balls of our feet and we drop. Rise up, drop. We do this 7 to 10 times. And then the reset movement at the end that finishes it all out. And at the end, I do another little, and you can do these movements as once you can just stand and say, okay, I need to ground. So I would like to invite you up. I'll give you a moment to get into a space, and then we're going to follow and we're going to go through all the movements that we've learned. There are two that we haven't learned because they involve going back and forward and then sweeping around. But you can find those on my website if you wanted to practice. Or when things were allowed to get in groups again, we can do this maybe next spring at the Gatehouse Healing Garden. All right. You ready to go? So now we're just going to take a moment, have a seat, and see if what's running through our body is our energy running through. Good. How is everybody doing? So we can pause, we can slow down and just let ourselves be calm and relaxed, peaceful. The more peaceful we are in emotions, in thoughts, the more our creative energy is going to throw insights into our mind about what is going to make our life feel good, how to bring more joy and happiness into our experience more often, what might be our dream worth chasing. And following the Kaizen philosophy is just getting to work and doing that. And just one thing before I hand it back over to Maria. When I talk about creative energy, sometimes that's an insight word for people like, I'm not creative, I can't draw, I can't play music, or sometimes we relate the word creative to certain things that we admire in other people. I mean, I love to listen to music and I love going to art galleries, but that's not where my spirit was. And I went into an art fundamentals course for college and it didn't match and I dropped out. And then that was just something else that added to my assumptions that school was not for me. But what I mean by creative, I would like to offer is that all work, every kind of work is creative when done mindfully. And my practice is work around the house like dishes. I do the dishes in our house. Christy does the laundry and folding. And we share a lot of responsibilities. But I do 90% or 95% of the dishes. And Christy does 90%, 95% of the laundry, 100% of the folding, because I've folded laundry before and that doesn't work here. But it's creative work. Those are opportunities to be mindful. Those dishes that happen every single day, that vacuuming that happens every single day, and you look at, you want to live in a clean house, that's part of your thing, maybe. I do. And so when the dishes are there, there's something that kind of, I gotta do it. It's that assumption. But then I breathe, I pause. How can I be mindful doing dishes? And when you remember to be mindful doing daily activities, that's meditation too. So I just wanted to offer that. All work is creative when done mindfully. So don't take that word creative and think you gotta be an artist, or many of us are good interpersonally. Many of us are good mathematically, logically. Many of us are good in spatial awareness. Like there's different things. Everybody's perception is a bit different. And everybody, you have an amazing gift off of the world that nobody else can. We just got to release the brakes. And that's what we're doing here.
That's beautiful, Brad. Thank you for mentioning that, and I love that. It's an opportunity for us to be mindful when we're doing the dishes. Such a routine daily task can be an opportunity to practice, because really doing the work involves practice, just like learning any new skill. And if self-exploration in terms of self-reflection is something new for you, it's a great way to start, starting with household chores that we all have to do. I love that, Brad. Thanks for sharing. So today we explored limiting beliefs and how they either help you or hinder you in your life. And we shared some of our own personal insights on that lovely topic. I know Gary's work, Brad, is it on your website if people wanted to find out more about his work?
Just type in Gary Craig EFT. There's videos. There's all kinds, probably tens and thousands, hundreds of thousands of videos. People tapping through instruction, doing different things for different limiting beliefs. Surely you're going to find one that aligns with you and just follow along. That could be something you would want to do. Dr. Nelson, he offers on the emotional code stuff. He offers programs for you to become a trainer, a certified trainer in what he does. He is Dr. Bradley Nelson. I could put links up on my website for you, but there's some things you can explore. It's the emotional part of us that we need to clear out every now and again, and you let it be energy and motion, fuel for our dreams, rather than the brakes that hold us back, one little step at a time.
Exactly. Thank you, Brad. That 1% that you put in makes a huge difference in the end. I actually woke up to a quote that was like that. It was like, how do you spend $10,000 in a year? You waste $27.42 a day on stuff that you don't really need. And I was like, that's an interesting way to look at it. Every day we're putting in something like that. And by the end of it, we spent that much money. So the same investment in terms of not spending money, but investing in your own emotional and mental health is 1%. What's one thing that you can do that will improve your life by 1% this week, by 0.5% this week? And if that's practicing gratitude, then do that. If that's reaching out to someone asking for support, do that. If that's texting someone saying, I'm grateful that you're in my life and you're an awesome friend, do that. It spreads more kindness and good energy into the world. So small things lead to big changes and big improvements in our lives. And if you're not alone in this too. That's what I want to mention. There are lots of other organizations out there offering services. I know that Lamp Community Health Center down here in Etobicoke, south of Etobicoke, they offer mindfulness-based sessions as well, and they're totally free. 3-week sessions, I believe, are coming up soon, and the person to contact there is Jasmine Du, and she has all the information on Lamp's website and social media site. So it's Lamp CHC is how you're going to find them online. And you're not alone. Reach out for support. There are people out there who are there to listen. If your support network isn't the greatest, there also, if you're in crisis, the Toronto Distress Center is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we have those numbers posted at the Gatehouse website. But if you Google Toronto Distress Center, you'll find their information. Thank you, Brad. I'm going to turn it to you so you can tell us a little bit about gratitude.
Yeah, let's just express it. I want to thank you, whoever's watching this video right now, and of course Maria and the Gatehouse for facilitating it, and again Maria, Paul, and Stephanie for all you guys are doing through this difficult time to keep this invaluable, energetic organization going, because I know people consider it invaluable to their expression of the 5 longings and to releasing some of the breaks. So I just want to say thank you to you all, and just remember to breathe. Just unlock the knees and breathe. Just remember to be mindful. When you can remember to be mindful, just do it. And keep a log. One more thing. I would like to, there's all kinds of historians now that are challenging us to write down our experiences through this. Going to what Maria was saying earlier, writing can be very, very beneficial way to release some of those emotions. And if you can take it, you can burn it and send it to the universe. If you thought of something that you wanted to publish, I would certainly be available to be in a critique group. If you wanted to. If you want to see what I'm writing in terms of documenting my life, you can see it under 2 chapters of my narrative nonfiction memoir, Suspended Between Two Worlds in the Making of a Shadow, and when I was meeting my cancer experience. So that would be something that I can offer you to get you started and help you with some things that questions you might have. Thank you again for being here.
Beautiful. Thank you, Brad. And we'll be back here next week for our final Midday Mindfulness episode on the 12th of November at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much, everyone, for spending your midday with us. Have a lovely and wonderful day and spread some kindness and gratitude. Thank you.
Best day of your life.